Let's see here. Ooh. Oh my. What is crackin', everybody? It's Mega Man here, and welcome to a quick peek at Crow. Crow is an interesting adventure game recently released on Steam for $4.99 and developed by Sunside Inc. In Crow, you play as a crow, no big surprise there, but you're no ordinary bird. You've been given some magical abilities by a dark entity and are sent out to do its bidding throughout each area in the game. Gameplay of Crow is broken up into two different parts. There's your exploration part, where you fly around and try to find things, and then there's your combat part, where you try to put those high school dodgeball skills to work and take out whatever kind of opponent you're up against, be them other birds, living trees, whatever that is. Each of these parts of the game play very differently and work alright with each other. Exploring is useful for filling in narrative as well as for finding trinkets that you can use to upgrade your crow and make combat a little bit easier. While it's nice and calming to just fly around the world Sunside Inc. has created, each area is very small and there isn't much to do there besides really just continue exploring. Finding trinkets and narrative locations is less of a scavenger hunt and more of a needle in the haystack search, since they start out invisible and only really show up once you mouse over the particular item. This game was originally made for mobile devices and then ported over to the PC, and you can really tell. Your mouse replaces the original touch controls, and it works okay most of the time. While I didn't have much of an issue with this control scheme in the exploration parts of the game, it did fail on me multiple times in combat. Combat parts of the game are on-rail dodgers, where you can't control your movement forwards or backwards, but can still strafe side to side. Each combat encounter will have some kind of boss you have to deal with, but how you attack that boss has not been adapted all that well to the PC platform. Before you're able to attack, you have to charge your magical abilities by collecting yellow circles or dodging incoming projectiles in order to get a certain meter filled all the way to the top. If you happen to take any damage within that time, you will lose points in that meter and have to refill them again. Once the meter is actually full, you get to use one of your magical abilities by either attacking or creating a shield that will allow you to block some damage. Both inputs for attacking and shielding still carry their touchscreen origins, and are activated depending upon how you swipe your mouse. But sometimes the game will do one instead of the other. There were multiple times where I wanted to attack by doing a horizontal slash across my screen, and instead I create a shield, when you're only supposed to make a shield by creating a circle on your screen. This is very frustrating, since enemies are designed to only have specific times when they're open for your attacks to actually hit them. So if you miss your chance by casting incorrectly, you have to wait for the enemy to be open again. This is infuriating against some of the bosses, as missing the window of attack can cause them to refill their life, to the point of having to restart that part of the boss battle all over again. Crow also shows its mobile roots but the lack of polish in its presentation. Textures are extremely blurry and many animations look stiff and awkward to say the least. Lighting in the game is also very strange, as bright areas come off as too bright, and dark areas are way too dark, to the point that the dark texture of the crow you're playing as gets lost in the shadow of the game, so you don't know where you are on screen. While I'm not one to usually complain about graphics, I do care about aesthetic, and the aesthetic chosen for Crow needs better quality textures, lighting, and animations to make it work well with the gameplay, as well as create the moods and tone Sunside really wants the game to have. Something that does a great job of setting that feeling in the game, however, is its soundtrack. Crow has a fantastic orchestral soundtrack that really embodies the epic quest adventure that the game so badly wants players to experience. There's really nothing bad that I can say about the soundtrack, which is always great. The game really does try to do some interesting things. It even has a moral choice system thrown into the mix. While the main plot of the game is that you need to curse bosses to defeat them so that you can unlock their powers in the upgrades menu, there's also the option to spare the bosses instead. To spare someone, you have to wait a little while on the victory screen, as it takes a while for its button to uncurl compared to the one for the curse option. But I warn you, Sparing bosses is not for the faint of heart. While sparing bosses doesn't change the game right off the bat, continued use of the spare system will put the game into insta-kill hard mode, while everything kills you in one hit. There is absolutely no warning that this change in the difficulty will happen until it does. And as someone who's beaten the game on the hard difficulty, I can tell you that is really not worth the trouble. Thankfully though, Crow is a very short game, and it switches to hard mode about halfway through, so if you don't want to play it on hard mode, you can easily restart and be back to where you were very quickly. Overall, Crow is an interesting experience, but definitely not something that everyone would enjoy. It tries to create an epic feel, it does an okay job at it, and while I did enjoy my time with the game, it's not something I would specifically recommend to anyone in general. If you are looking for something a bit different or experimental, I'd say give it a shot. You just might enjoy it. Otherwise, you may want to avoid this game, even though it is around $5. Well, thank you guys for watching this quick peek at Crow, an experimental adventure game developed by Sunset Inc. and available on Steam for $4.99. Feel free to let me know what you think of the game or its ideas in the comments section. I'm Mega Pie Man, and I'll talk to you guys later. Each level just begging for you to find. Finding them could be a problem though, since someone put all these baddies wanting to kill you in the way, which is always a fun time. Luckily, you've got the perfect way to deal with them. Guns!